Well, hello. Today's the 2017 Cyberpunk movie, Ghost in a Shell. In the future, a young woman survives a terrorist attack and has her brain transferred into an artificial body. This woman a year later is a Major Kira Killian in Section 9, a counter-terrorist agency for the Japanese government. She has a fight with a terrorist Kuza, who is killing executives at Hanka Robotics. The investigation leads to a Yakuza nightclub, which turns out to be a trap. There's another attack by sanitation workers who are hacked by Kuza, and they are defeated. A captured one then gives them another lead. Only Kira is captured, and she finds out that Kuza is like her, but a failed experiment of Hanka Robotics. She confronts the doctor who made her and finds out that there were 98 other test subjects that came before her. The executive at Hanka decides to have Kira killed, but the doctor helps her to escape and gives her an address to go to. The doctor is then killed by the Hanka executive, and her death is blamed on Kira. The address leads to an apartment where she finds her mother, and that her mother, and she was a runaway, and her mother thinks that she killed herself. She meets up with Kuza and remembers her past. Hanka, though, attacks with a spider tank and kills Kuza, but Kira manages to destroy the tank. The Hanka executive is then arrested, and Kira is able to reconnect with her mother and go back with her to her life. So this movie is a live-action adaptation of a manga series from the 90s. It was a cyberpunk series, Ghost in the Shell. It was made into anime, a bunch of anime movies, and some video games. And this is kind of the first live action of it. And, it was filmed in New Zealand and Hong Kong. And it didn't quite do well. It had like a 110 budget, but only made 169 worldwide. And so it made a loss of 60 to 100 million, depending on what numbers you use. And also, this was starring Scarlett Johansson. It it had mixed views. It obviously has some really nice special effects. I mean, it does have a very, Blade Runner feel. And it deals a lot with the, transhumanism, the concept of, augmenting humans, that they're evolving. And, the main character is definitely like the ultimate in that. They're even saying that. There's out in the movies, asking, are you human or not? Because, people are now so augmented up. They aren't quite fully human. It's interesting, it's an interesting future, very Blade Runner type, very dark, urban. There's a lot of futuristic stuff, and there's, all these hologram advertisements all over the place, and it's a Japan, obviously very globalist type city. It's very, kind of, generic, like what globalist cities all are. And of course, there's, for the most part, it also had, a controversy, because they cast Scarlett Johansson and not an Asian actor for the main role, which, that's really kind of just basically, an American problem, because the Japanese had no problem with it. The director that did the original anime thought it was a great choice, and the people who licensed it knew that there was not going to be a Japanese character playing it. They just were interested in exposing a non-Japanese audience to their property, which I think was, did a pretty good job of doing that. It's and then, it makes sense story-wise, because they had her supposed to be a foreigner, so wouldn't give her necessarily even a Japanese look, I would think. And they gave her, false memories that she was a refugee whose parents were killed by terrorists, so she would want to fight terrorists in this new Section 9. And it's an interesting kind of Japanese place where, there is a lot of non-Japanese, like very, it's a very globalist thing where there's just kind of a homogenous population of all over the place. And, there's only like the director of this Section 9 is the only one who speaks Japanese. So, but, everybody understands him, but they speak English back to him, which is kind of weird. I just kind of, okay, well, that's, how they do it. And, I found it, I already got it from like a 12-pack of movies, because there were some movies in this 12-pack DVD set I wanted, and I got this one too, and, it was kind of an interesting watch. I mean, I enjoy it. I think it's kind of a fun movie. If you like your cyberpunk stuff, which was very big in the 90s and that. And, this is a good movie. I think, I'd recommend it if you have nothing better to watch. And if you stuck with me this long, I thank you. You're a unique individual.